Hello everyone, Simon here. We're going to take this week off for various different circumstances, but we figured it would be a good time to dive into the Open Era vaults and go back in time for this installment of Open Era Gold. Following Iga Swiatek's completion of a triple at Roland Garros, we are heading back to the site of the double with her victory over Karolina Muchova last year. Spoilers, I know. Hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane. Can't believe this was just 1 year ago. We'll talk to you soon.
Hello and welcome to the Open Era podcast. My name is Devang and I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Simon Bushell for another edition of Open Era Gold, the series that is sweeping the world. Simon, we're going through our favorite matches of the year 2023. I like the pick you've made for your women's selection, sir.
Boys picks, as they say. It's my turn to choose, and I am choosing my favorite women's match of 2023. It is Iga Swiatek versus Karolina Muchova from the French Open final. I think anyone who'd followed the podcast through the course of the year could probably have guessed that I might have picked this match. Dev, it was a banger. There was ups and downs. The level was sometimes good and sometimes not good. Sometimes a good, sometimes a shit, as Rino Gattuso says in that famous clip. But hope you enjoy this one. It's a very enjoyable walk down memory lane.
So let's talk about it. Karolina Muchova challenging Iga Swiatek in the final of RG 2023. Simon, you mentioned in the preamble how this match was not a typical one in many ways, but the level kind of dipping and soaring at various times, but it also produced some of the stupidest opinions I think I've ever seen on social media regarding a tennis match. So for that, it is permanently etched in my brain. And also because we got one of the signature Iga Swiatek moments in a career that is already going to go down in the record books. And it's thanks in a large part to how great Karolina Muchova was on this day.
If anyone's wondering why I picked this, right, you shouldn't be shocked that I chose this one, by the way, if you do listen to the podcast. It's got two of my favorite players in it, and it's the French Open final. There's tons of things to say about it. It was a wild three setters. It had the French crowd sometimes behaving themselves and sometimes not. Had some incredible shot making, and god damn, it had some terrible points in here as well. They're like truly shambolic for a French Open final. But it was really, really fun to sit down and relive this one.
Well, and I think to set it up, Simon, the semifinal between Muchova and Sabalenka felt like that was probably the match of the year. And it felt like a match that we probably would not stop talking about for a long time. And it also led a lot of people to disseminate those bad takes, like I mentioned, because I think the idea is that we were supposed to see Sabalenka versus Iga here, right, Simon? That was the match that we wanted to see with this newly christened Big Three, and the fact that we had that epic in Melbourne just a few months earlier in which Sabalenka featured. It felt right that she would be in the final against Iga on Iga's home turf or Iga's preferred surface, but that wasn't meant to be. And because it was so one-sided early on in the final, we had a lot of people pining for Sabalenka here, Simon. And I will admit, in that first set, so was I, because it wasn't that great.
Yeah, I think that's true. Just to give some background here. First of all, shout out to Joe Tanzi. I'm going to read this just because it's, in a world of filler and in a world of not tight journalism, every single point that's made at the start of this article in the preview of this final is fucking gold, Dev. Iga Swiatek will go after her third French Open title in 4 years on Saturday against Karolina Muchova. The top-seeded Pole has not dropped a set on her favorite surface and should be heavily favored to beat her unseeded Czech opponent. Swiatek was tested in the second set of her semi-final match against Beatrice Haddad-Maia, but she parried through a tiebreak to keep her perfect record in Paris on clay. Muchova advanced to the final through a three-set battle with number 2 Anya Sabalenka. Muchova made 3 previous Grand Slam quarterfinal appearances before the 23 French Open, but she'd never reached the semi-final in one of those events. Saturday's women's singles final will mark the first time Muchova plays in a major title match, but she can draw on some previous results to challenge the top seed. Muchova is coming off a win over the number 2 player in the world, and she owns a 1-0 record, a head-to-head record against Swiatek. There's nothing wasted here, Dev. I've got everything that I need to know before going into this final. You set it up perfectly. Whenever you see
Eat your
that,
heart out.
good stuff. Well done, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. No AI can do that yet. Well done. Very tight. Yeah. And I think the idea that Karolina Muchova had some experience to draw on. I know Cromulent Josh, friend of the show and Discord legend, mentions her a lot, and for good reason. But as a tennis player, Simon, one of the best to watch. Everything is there. She's got all the shots, all the variety you need to be a top player, except probably health.
Yeah, I think that's almost certainly true, right? Like it was great to see the way her finish the 2023 season so high. Like it was great to see her reach a career high ranking. Obviously, it was fantastic to see her reach this final. She's got a very aesthetically pleasing game. Like it's one of those that you want to turn the tape on and show to all the young girls and boys who are playing. Like play like this. Serve is immaculate, looks technically perfect. Her backhand is a thing of beauty. The forehand is, technically really solid. She's an all-court player, moves laterally really well, goes to the net really well. But she's kind of one of those players as well where it's like, does everything really well, but does she do one thing above everything else, really? Like, what is her one weapon? And I think you could make the case, certainly, the fact that she is so good at everything, that is her weapon. But there's just that tiny little bit, is there not there? Is she like 90% good at most things? She's not 100% good at anything. And that's kind of what came back to bite her in the bum in this final, potentially.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, it's funny you mentioned not having the one single exceptional shot, but to be 5-0 against opponents ranked inside the top 3, I think it underlines maybe how high her baseline level is, or how high her floor is in terms of just overall level, because that is just exceptional. But I wonder if she maybe felt the idea that she had to go for a lot more than usual against Iga on this court at this tournament, because early on it was an error fest. She could not hit the court. I
mean, Swiatek does that to players, though, does she not? Like, she is so explosive. Her movement is so incredible. Like, we don't need to say this, right? But like the backdrop to this from the Swiatek side is that she beat everyone. She blew the doors off literally everyone in this tournament, including Coco Gauff in the quarterfinals, and never got close to her. Maybe the toughest run that she has was against Haddad Maia, and that really was just the second set. The rest of the time, she was so dominant and so head and shoulders above the field that I think everyone came into here expecting it to not be close. That was the case in that first set. Muchova was super nervous, obviously, you could tell that. But Swiatek was locked in and just such a clean ball striker, and it kind of suffocated, I think, Muchova in that first set. It was not remotely close, Dev.
No, not at all. And I think Iga had 4 bagels this tournament. And in one match, she double bageled Jin Wang, which, I mean, yeah. So peak Iga is not someone you want to come into a match fearing or not feeling your best against. And at this point, I think after the first set, it was a question of, would Muchova find her game in time? She did. Boy, did she ever. But I think there was reason to think maybe that it was going to come at some point based on the track record. But in the moment, at the time, Simon, we were looking at a final that was going to be over in probably an hour.
I think you could have easily, if you turned off the television or turned off a streaming service and it was 6-2 and 3-love, and you were like, okay, this is going to finish, 2-love. That's going to be the end of the French Open. It's going to be wrapped in 50 minutes. I think, that would have been very fair. I think
get the house DJ queued up, because exactly, we have a weird award ceremony to get through.
Everyone's in tears from the Muchova camp. It's, you've got the runners-up speech. I'll learn from this. I'll get better, etc., etc. Fair play to Iga. She does this to many players. I'm just the latest victim. But no, that's not what happened here. Not at all. I think the biggest difference was that because Muchova has so much in the toolbox, is that she just started chucking some stuff in there, trying to play with a little bit more variety. And in particular, I think trying to make Swiatek come forward, trying to get her out of her comfort zone. Because I think what the game plan was clearly that she was going to try and, manipulate the ball around on court and try and stretch the court in all 4 directions. Swiatek did not remotely fall for that in the first set. But I think it worked a little bit more in the second set, because I think Muchova used her forehand She went for her forehand more when the opportunity presented itself. And the rest of the time, she just did a fantastic job of hanging in rallies. And nothing signifies that more than the huge, like humongous forehand that she hits at 3-2 to break back. It's an absolute dynamite shot. It's perfect. It's textbook to see. And if ever we needed a doubt that this match was back on, that forehand was a clear demonstration of it.
No, it was excellent. And I think though getting Iga to come to the net and Iga looking not great at doing it did create that brief moment of, can Iga play at the net? Remember the discourse of, is she completely thoughtless when it comes to net play? No, it was fascinating. And I think maybe the most captivating part for me was that Iga got super tight and she looked... It looked like she wanted a timeout and to get off the court and just not be out there. And you don't really get a glimpse of that. And I think throughout the season, we kind of got more of that from Iga, where she was a lot more open about maybe the expectation she's facing now and mistakes that are involved in every match she plays, because she is such a big favorite and because she is expected to rack up so many trophies. I think maybe at this moment, because it was going so well, because she had a 3-love lead in the second set, it felt wrapped. So she felt like maybe it was almost too easy, because I know Muchova's game increased in quality. Iga's game dropped pretty considerably as well.
Yeah, no kidding. It was pretty wild, wasn't it, at points in that second set? Like, considering the level that we'd seen throughout the course of the first set, it wasn't remotely anywhere close to that in set number 2. Like, it sort of all fell apart from that 3-love moment. And it's not like this is the thing, Swiatek's such a good player that her ability to not completely bottom out and just throw matches is astonishing, despite her not playing particularly well. I think you hit the nail on the head. I thought she, not trying to play amateur and armchair psychologist, I think she thought she'd won at 3-love. I think she thought the match was over. And the fact that Muchova came back the way that she did, I think is testament to obviously her fighting qualities. But you imagine the mental resilience and mental toughness required, that you're getting the doors blown off you inside of your first Grand Slam final and you just keep going. It's like, no, I still have the commitment, still have the nous. And throwing on top of that, like actually tactically making changes as well during the course of the match, like huge credit to her.
Yeah, and I think this match also lends credence to the argument that, like, you don't necessarily have to have the highest quality at all times to have a classic match. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't need both players to be redlining the entire time to produce a classic. Like, I think the third set was so memorable because you had such wild dips at such important times, and obviously a trophy on the line. Like, I think this third set for me, Simon, after Muchova eventually serves the second set out at 6-5, this third set for me perhaps is the most memorable of the entire season.
Yeah, I remember we were watching this, right, and doing the watch along with our Discord as well, and just I think the stunned look, as much as you can have a stunned look inside of a Discord server, just the disbelief perhaps that was going on throughout
emojis.
The course. Yeah, exactly. The brain exploding emoji, whatever you want to throw at it, of this third set. So we get the role reversal, basically, do we not? We have Swiatek racing to that 3-love lead inside of the second set. Inside of the third set, though, to start it, Muchova's got to be kicking herself that she did not win this final, given how this third set starts.
I mean, she broke Iga 80 times, right? In this third set. It felt like Iga on serve was just, nothing was there. She lost her fastball, did not have confidence. In fact, I think both players on serve really were not liking their chances at all. I think Iga, to her credit, continued to come to the net, but boy, it didn't look smooth at all. Like, I think, again, seeing exceptional talents and people who are otherworldly struggle and needing to find a new solution and find a new way when they don't have it is fascinating to me. And I think because Iga's been so open about the mental side of the game, it felt like we were problem solving along with her in this match when it looked like it was really going to shit. Because at several times I thought she had lost this match in the third set, Simon. And to your point, Muchova not winning this title, I don't know how it doesn't keep you up at night.
I think, Dev, just on the point of finding your best, or not finding your finding a level when you're not playing your best. I think my opinion on this has changed so much in the course of even since we've been recording this podcast, of me romanticizing, and I think more broadly, a lot of people romanticizing the idea of technique and aesthetics and all this sort of stuff. And I'm aware of the absurdity of me talking about that in a Karolina Muchova match. But the fact, it wasn't until I heard someone basically saying, like, from a tennis player's perspective, like, don't worry about it. Like, does the ball go in? Does it go to the place that you want it to go to? And does the shot that you had in your brain happen? And if it looks like shit and it still works, then don't worry about it. It's totally fine. And I think I've started to sort of think about that more broadly in terms of how I watch sport as well. Like, does the ball go in the net? Yes, no. Okay, if it does, then that's good. Like, extend that metaphor as far as you want. Like, and I know you have to have a certain degree of ability to be able to do that, but at the same time, it doesn't matter. Like, as long as your results are good, then fucking go for it. And that's kind of how I feel about Iga's net play as well. It does not look good, but it works just about.
Yeah, and I think the fact that it looked awkward a lot. Super weird, because like you're watching Iga Swiatek unload the craziest forehands on either side of the tour, like in terms of pace and spin, and to see her not feel comfortable on the court is a bit jarring. I nearly forgot how long this match was. I knew it was long, Simon, but 2 hours and 46 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I think emotionally, that's why we felt so spent in that third set. But I don't know. I there's so many things to be impressed by both women in terms of what they produced in this final. But I do like the idea of Iga digging deep and finding a way when she doesn't have her A game, but also having her A game at really important points in this match as well. Like, I don't want to make it sound as if Iga was like clumsily finding a way as if she couldn't do anything right. I think we had a smattering of just classic points mixed in with the nerves and the double faults and the errors.
I think that's basically the story of this third set, isn't it? Which Muchova breaks a 2-love. Swiatek levels, Muchova breaks again for 4-3, and you really think that's probably it. And then, just out of nowhere, out of junk and out of nonsense during the course of this third set, Iga goes on a run where she wins like 15 points in a row and just wraps the match up. That's the crazy thing. I think Muchova thinks she's in it, and the level's not great from both players. And then just this eruption of talent and a locked-in Swiatek just blows her away, like absolutely blows her away. And it's the testament of finding your best stuff when you need it to get across the line, because at 4-3 we're all thinking, oh god, this is a contest, and then it just wasn't. It just wasn't after that, and that's amazing to see happen in real time.
I think Tumani Carriel said it perfectly in his match report. Quote, the match had been frantic for 90 minutes, but as the finishing line approached, Swiatek found clarity. She locked down her game, returning spectacularly well and refusing to offer up cheap errors. And she tore through the final 3 games of the match to reach match point on Muchova's serve. Feels weird to say this, but it also feels right that this ended on a double fault, by Muchova, Simon, because to say this was a classic, I think it was. And again, this third set stayed with me for a very long time, but it was a strange match. It was not normal. And to end on a double fault felt strangely apt.
Yeah, it was dramatic. I think that's how I'd describe it. It was dramatic. It had tons of storylines in it. It was enjoyable without points being good. And I think that's the mark of a good tennis match as well, is that it doesn't always have to be the highest quality, as long as it continues to be as long as you're invested in it, and as long as it continues to offer interesting narratives throughout the course of it. And boy, did this one do that.
Where do we leave it? Iga had a pretty good season, Simon, overall. What do you think? I do think it's good that she won the ATP finals, or the WTA finals, the way she did, to set up what we expect to be an amazing 2024. But we had such a variety of slam champions. We had Iga run off an incredible streak in between and along the way, and solidify herself as one of one of the most dominant talents in the sport and one of the most dominant athletes around. But I don't know, do you leave this match thinking more about maybe what Iga was able to accomplish, or lamenting what Muchova wasn't able to after all the injury struggles she's battled with, and the perseverance to battle through. I mean, I was really happy for Iga, but I was also left feeling quite sad for Muchova considering what she's been through.
Yeah, almost a perfect final in that regard, isn't it? Where your heart sort of breaks for the runner-up in this situation, because you're like, how many other chances is she going to get at this? You never know, right? And the winner, you're like, oh, she's fine. She's going to win plenty more of these, and we feel pretty good about that. So it's always nice to see a dominant player continue to chase history, and easily the best clay court player in the world continue to dominate in that capacity. So I think no matter who you're supporting, you could walk away from this one and be like, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it in general. The Swiatek side of it, clearly over the moon, despite, I think, being extraordinarily emotional through the whole match.
The post-match speech, I think Muchova was really emotional. I thought she said the feeling is a little bitter, which I thought was awesome. I mean, this woman has been through a lot, and I think Chris Everett being on the stage with her, and Chris Everett battling or dealing with cancer and cancer treatments, it was really emotional. And I think that scene, that trophy scene, that celebration, and also the sadness, that's sports, man. That's why we watch. That's why we get so invested in these people we don't really know. And that's why we gather together, whether it be on the Discord or in a group chat, and lose our minds like we did collectively during that third set. It was awesome.
I think my summary of this one and why it stuck with me so much, it was a very human post-match ceremony, and it was a very human match as well in terms of the highs and the lows of it.
Perfectly said, and we'll leave it there. A reminder, we are on patreon.com/open-air. Get the show ad-free, get it early on Sundays, plus join us on the Discord where we're chatting tennis all the time. For producer Dylan on the ones and twos, and for Simon, thank you so much for listening to Open Era. We'll talk to you next time.